So parents, if you are looking for a good wine or a good beverage to pair with this meal, a chilled rosé would be really nice, or even a chilled Pinot Noir if you're into red. I know Lisa likes red wine, David. So Pinot Noir would work really nice, a nice light red wine. Otherwise, anything. Okay, so let's get started. It's 5:04. If you don't already, go ahead and fill a pot of water, just a medium pot. This is what I consider a medium pot. Fill it up about maybe 2/3 to 2/3 full of water, and put it on your stove and get it ready to boil. So we're going to be blanching vegetables and boiling potatoes and eggs today. So we're actually going to use this pot twice. We're going to blanch the green beans first for just a minute, and then we're going to boil our potatoes for a little bit, for maybe like depending on the size of your tomatoes, 8 to 10 minutes. And then we'll pour out the water and we'll boil our eggs. So I'm going to turn my heat on to high. Actually, I'll put mine, this is a pretty strong burner, so I'll just pour mine. But go ahead and put your pot on to boil. That'll take about 5 or 6 minutes for most of us. And for those of you who are going to be sauteing peppers, do we have anyone else sauteing peppers today besides me?
Lynna, is that okay. If you didn't have a roasted pepper, we'd saute them?
Yes, I'm going to be sauteing a pepper.
Me too.
I'm sauteing a pepper.
Okay, great, Benna. That's good. So if those of you who are sauteing peppers, you can also have it from a jar too. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to be sauteing these Jimmy Nardello peppers today, and they're these sweet peppers. So I'm just going to prep my peppers and get them ready to pan fry. So those of you who are not doing the pepper step, you can just chill for a minute. If you haven't already washed your vegetables, you can go ahead and get your vegetables on to wash. You can kind of get your ingredients together. But I'm going to show you how I'm going to prep these peppers here. So I'm going to do about, I don't know, just about this many. I'm going to grab my pan too. I realize I didn't grab a pan yet, but you can use a cast iron pan or a saute pan. Okay. And what I'm doing with these peppers, you may not have these peppers, but same procedure. You'll be cutting the stem off, and then you'll be cutting it lengthwise down the middle, like that. And then you just want to take the seeds and the ribs out from the inside. So I'm going to do it over my compost bowl here, but I'm just going to use my hands to take the seeds and the ribs out.
What do you do with bell peppers?
Bell peppers, same thing. Brenna, you just cut the stem off and then split it in half lengthwise, and then take out your pepper. Take out the seeds and the ribs. Okay. So I'm going to do the same with all of my peppers. You may just have one. Okay. And as I'm prepping, I just want to check in with all of you, make sure everyone's doing okay. It's been a really hard week for all of us, I think. I mean, I think it's been a really nice thing that the air has gotten better here in the Bay Area, and maybe even for you, Natalie, up in Ashland. Although I think the air quality where you are in Ashland is still not great, right, Natalie? What's your air quality like?
Right now it's green, actually.
Excellent. How many days has it been green?
2.
Just 2 days. Okay, that's great. Ours has been green since Tuesday. So we're really just reveling and being able to be outside, and we've all promised each other we're never going to take it for granted again, that we can't be outside. It's been a hard time. And then on Friday, we got some really hard news about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, as I'm sure all of you know, she died. And it was a particular shock because I didn't even realize that she was so close to death. I knew she was sick. I knew she had cancer. And I remember the last I'd read in late July was she had resolved to be able to stay, to continue working until she couldn't anymore. And I hadn't heard any news report that she was declining. And so it was a really hard news to hear that she had passed. And I know that many of us are doing everything we can to try to get people to vote and to get people to also remember her legacy and her memory. So to me, you know, it's sometimes hard to feel like cooking. It's hard to, when you're having a lot of, you know, when you're hearing a lot of bad news and getting a lot of just stressful stimuli, it sometimes feels hard to want to cook or to want to eat anything healthy. But I find that once I force myself into the kitchen and just kind of look around and see what I have available, once I get going, I always feel better. I never regret it. I never regret cooking, even when I don't feel like it. And today's meal in particular, I think, is a really refreshing, light, cleansing meal. I'm hoping that it'll help us all have a really, really good week. It'll propel us into this week feeling very energized and with lots of energy and strength to keep the fight we have going for our democracy and for our government.
Lynna,
Yes?
if we have bell peppers, do we cut them into smaller pieces?
Yes, just cut them into strips, Brenna.
Okay.
Should we salt our water?
Your water should, not yet. Wait till it comes to a boil. Thank you for asking that. Is that Sophia? Oh, Tegan? Yeah, thank you for asking. Wait till your water comes to a boil and then we'll salt your water. Okay, so I'm still working on my peppers. The Jimmy Nardellos, if you have Jimmy Nardellos or these long, slender peppers, you don't need to do anything with them except just take the seeds out and the ribs out. We're not going to cut them any further. I think they're already thin enough as it is. So let's see, my last pepper. So those of you who have bell peppers, you can cut them into strips, and then we're just going to drape them over your salad later when it comes time. Okay. And again, this is another menu that really honors the produce we have in season right now. It honors our season. We're now in mid-September. We're kind of late summer, the beginning of fall, where tomatoes and peppers are still really ripe and plentiful and inexpensive. And so it's a good time to try to cook with these ingredients as much as possible. Once the fall rolls around, once we really get into fall, we'll be cooking more kind of warming dishes. We'll be cooking other dishes that will celebrate the produce of that season, but we'll have to stay tuned for that. All right, so my water is almost at a boil.
Dishes.
You can't wait for holiday dishes, Brenda? Oh, I can't wait either. Okay, so I'm going to I have my peppers ready. I'm not going to do anything with them just yet because our next step, I want us to just focus on blanching green beans. And this is a pretty quick step. So my water is about at a boil. I'm going to salt it now with a healthy amount of salt. You want to salt it so that it tastes pretty salty like the sea. So I'm going to put in a good handful. And by a good handful, I mean like, I don't know, like 2.5, 3 tablespoons. You don't have to measure, but I'm putting in a handful like this. I'll show you here. I'm putting in a good handful. Okay. I want it to be pretty salty because when you blanch vegetables, you want the vegetables to have flavor and to maintain their flavor, and salt brings out the flavors in your vegetable. So once your water comes to a boil, go ahead and salt it carefully. And I'm just putting in my entire bunch of green beans here. So I'm just gonna very carefully put them in. You can also use a spider to put them in if it feels better to do it that way. Dropped one, and I'll add the rest. And I'm gonna set a timer for 1 minute. Hey Google, set a timer for 1 minute. Okay.
And we're starting now.
Okay, so while these peppers are blanching, while these green beans are blanching, I have another medium-sized bowl like this. I'm going to fill it with about, I'd say like a cup or so of ice. Again, no need to measure, but just fill the bottom of this bowl, of your bowl, with ice. We're going to make an ice bath. So I'm just going to fill it with ice. Pressure cubes. Okay, so I have a healthy amount of ice here in the bottom of my bowl, and I'm going to fill it with some water. Not all the way, but maybe just, again, 2/3 of the way full. And the timer of my beans are about to go off. So I don't want them cooked all the way through. I still want my green beans a little crunchy, a little crisp. So I'm just taking them out right now. Hey, Google, stop. And I'm gonna take them out with my spider. You can also use a pair of tongs. Be very careful. I'm gonna take my green beans and put them straight into the ice water. Okay, I'm putting my green beans straight into the ice water, and then I'm gonna kind of submerge them and make sure that all the green beans get put into the ice water underneath the water so that it immediately stops the cooking. Okay, so just leave this in here for now. You can leave the green beans in your ice water bath, just leave it in there. And the next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna turn to our potatoes. So I have these small potatoes, these are fingerling potatoes. You can use any kind of small potato, baby Yukon Golds or red potatoes. I'm gonna use these baby fingerlings, and I'm gonna put them into my boiling water that's still boiling, and it's still salted. So again, very gently lower them in. You can also, again, use a spider and place your potatoes onto your spider and lower them into the water. You don't want to throw them in because it'll splash really hot water on you, and that is very dangerous. So I'm just putting on all my potatoes, and I'm going to set a timer for about 8 minutes. Depending on the size of your potatoes, it'll be between 8 to 12 minutes. Okay, hey Google, set a timer for 8 minutes. So I think a minimum of 8 minutes will be enough. I'd rather put it in for under than over because if your potatoes get overcooked, they will start to fall apart a little bit. Okay, so I have my potatoes in the boiling salted water, the same water that you use for your green beans. Okay, we're just gonna let that sit in there now and come to a boil. I'm grabbing a fork so that once 8 minutes are up, I'll be able to test the doneness. All right, so now that we have our green beans blanched, I'm going to grab a colander like this, and I'm just going to take my green beans out of the ice water bath and let it drain. So here I am, I'll show you. I'm just gonna put my colander, you can put it over the sink if you want or over your compost bowl. I'm just gonna use a pair of tongs, or you can use your hands too, and just take the green beans that were now been chilled out of your ice water bath. Okay, and I'm gonna put them into a colander so they have time to drain for the rest of our cooking session. This way, they'll be properly drained before it's time to add them to your salad. I'm just gonna shake it off a little bit. I'm gonna shake off the water like that. And we'll just let it air dry for the next, 40 minutes or so. Okay, so we'll set this aside. So we have your green beans in the colander draining, and we have your potatoes in the boiling water. Okay. So now I think we're gonna go ahead and saute peppers. If those of you who have peppers, you can turn on your saute pan. I'm gonna just turn it on to maybe like medium right now. And it's okay, we don't need to have a camera on that. Actually, maybe what I'll do is I'll switch, let me switch burners here.
Wait, what heat is the potatoes on?
Hey, Brenna, can you turn down your volume just a tad?
Yeah.
Thank you. It's hard to understand you a little bit because it's a little loud. So Turn it
What
down a
heat
little bit. And
potatoes on?
then, the potatoes should be on, should still be at a simmer, like boil, like a light boil, not like a heavy boil, just a light boil. So I have mine on at like a medium right now.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Brenna. And if you can, Brenna, turn your volume down just a little bit, or maybe you're wearing a microphone, but sometimes when it's really loud, it's hard to understand your question. But thank you. All right, so potatoes in your boiling water, your stove, if you're sauteing peppers, go ahead and have your saute pan on medium, and you can start putting in some olive oil. Okay, so I'm putting in like a good couple tablespoons of olive oil, and I'm just gonna let that heat up some more. Make sure the bottom of my pan is coated with oil. Not a ton, but just a couple tablespoons. And then I have my pile of peppers here that I prepared. You can have your strips of peppers ready. I'm just gonna very careful and place them into the hot pan. Okay, and I'm gonna take some salt, a good heavy pinch of salt, and just season these peppers. And then we're just gonna let them sit here for a little bit. We're just gonna let them brown in the hot oil. So I have two things on the stove now. I have my boiling potatoes and my peppers. And now we're gonna move on to making our vinaigrette while our peppers and our potatoes are cooking. So we're making what's called a Niçoise salad. It originates in France, and it's a really lovely, light and refreshing salad to have in the summer or the late summer when all these vegetables are in. There are many different recipes or versions of this recipe. The version I'm making is a little bit more Americanized than you would have maybe in France. I did a little bit of research, and I know that there are some French chefs who are highly trained who feel like it's a travesty to have boiled anything in your salad. Potatoes, they think it should not be boiled. It should not even be in the salad. Some chefs don't use lettuce. Some chefs don't use peppers or green beans. They might use a different kind of bean. So this is our version. This is the version we're gonna cook today. And it's the version I have a lot at home when I want like a salad for dinner. So the vinaigrette also tends to vary. We're gonna make a basil vinaigrette. So the first thing I'm gonna do for our vinaigrette is I'm gonna take my clove of garlic, I'm gonna smash it and peel it. If you like a lot of garlic flavor and you don't mind raw garlic in your dressing, you can go ahead and mince it. If you just want the flavor of the garlic, not too heavy, you can leave it smashed and just throw it into your vinaigrette container. So I'm gonna go ahead and mince mine. I'm just gonna finely chop my garlic clove. Okay, and sometimes people use a mortar and pestle to also pound the garlic. But since I have my cutting board out, I felt like I would just go ahead and just mince it by hand. And then you can also just leave it whole smashed. Just smash your garlic and put it right into your vinaigrette if you don't want a little bit of garlic flavor throughout your dressing. A smashed clove of garlic will just give it a hint of garlic flavor, but the minced garlic will really make it more garlicky, which I don't mind. Okay, so take your garlic, put it into your vinaigrette mixing container vessel, whatever you're gonna use. I'm using a Pyrex measuring cup because it has a spout. That makes it easier to pour later, but you can also just use a small bowl. I'm just gonna put my minced garlic in. Now that I have my garlic taken care of, I'm going to turn to my peppers. I'm just going to toss them a little bit. You can use a pair of tongs, or you can just shake your pan around. Yeah?
How many cloves of garlic should we use?
Just one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So my peppers are getting pretty charred, which is great. I'm just going to turn my heat down a little bit. Okay, don't forget, if you didn't already, don't forget to have seasoned your peppers. And then I'm just gonna let that cook down for another minute or so. And the timer on my potatoes are about to go off. So I'm gonna check the doneness of my potatoes. It's been 8 minutes for me. And my timer is gonna go off in about 5 seconds. I have my fork ready. I'm gonna check the doneness of my potatoes. Hey, Google, stop. And all I'm doing is taking my fork and just poking at it. And my potatoes still are pretty hard. So I'm gonna set a timer for another 4 minutes. If your potatoes are much smaller than mine, yours may be close to done, but I'm gonna set my timer for another 4 minutes. Hey, Google, set a timer for 4 minutes. All right. And then we'll test I'll test my potatoes again. So the next thing I'm gonna do with our vinaigrette, and the reason I'm having you make it now is so that the garlic flavor has a chance to kind of mellow and permeate into your dressing. So next, I'm using some basil. So I'm gonna take some basil leaves here, and I'm gonna finely chop my basil. Just piling them up like this. There's a number of different ways to chop basil leaves. You can stack them up and roll them like a cigar, like roll them like a little roll, and you can just chiffonade, just cut them into teeny tiny strips and then mince them. The thing with herbs is that you can just pile them into a pile because they're so soft. And then I'm just gonna—
How many leaves?
Sorry, what was that, Brenna?
How many leaves?
I used about 7 leaves. Depends on the size of your basil leaves. Okay, so my peppers are about done, by the way. I'm gonna turn the heat off and give it one final toss. Okay. And I'm just gonna let it sit in the hot pan for a little bit. It'll continue cooking, that's fine. But I'm just gonna let them sit and continue to, so it's fine. They're actually quite delicious if they're a little charred.
How do you know they're done, Lynna? What are you looking for?
Soft, if they're soft.
Thanks.
If they're soft enough that you could not need a knife to cut them, you can just, soft enough that you could use a fork to cut them in your salad. So I'm turning them over, making sure there's the parts that are already charred don't continue to char. Like that. All right. There. So I turned the heat off my peppers, and I'm just gonna let them continue to cook for a little bit in the residual heat. And now I've chopped my basil, so I'm gonna add the basil to my garlic. And then the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add an acid. So you can use whatever acid you have on hand. You can use red wine vinegar, you can use a white wine vinegar, you can use rice vinegar, you can use a lemon. Yes, Taryn, you can use a lemon. In your honor, I'm gonna use a lemon too. So I'm gonna grab a lemon that just came off of Taryn's tree. Let's see. And I'll just go ahead and wash the outside of the lemon so that any residual soil is not left. Okay, so I'm gonna cut my lemon in half. And I'm not gonna use the whole lemon, unless you're cooking for 9 people. I'm just gonna use half a lemon, and I'm just gonna add it straight to my basil and my garlic in my vinaigrette mixture. Okay.
You have lemon juice?
No, I brought vinegar out.
What?
In terms
What
of
is
vinegar.
that?
Yes.
All right. So I'm gonna add a little bit more lemon. The trick with a vinaigrette is the proportion of acid to oil you want is generally 1 to 3. So you want to add about 1/3 of the acid that you'll need for your vinaigrette, for the amount of oil you use.
What's your recommendation
for
the vinegar if we're using straight vinegar?
If you have if you have a red wine vinegar,
Yeah,
Yeah, so red wine vinegar, I would add maybe 3 tablespoons, and then it'll be about a half a cup of olive oil. Oh, sorry, one, yeah, like maybe not 3 tablespoons. Hey, Google, stop. Maybe start with 1 tablespoon of vinegar and then like 3 tablespoons of oil. Roughly. No need to measure. Okay, so my timer for my potatoes went off again. I'm gonna take my fork and I'm gonna test my potatoes. I'm gonna test both a big one and a little one. And I think it still needs more time. So I'm gonna set another timer. I'm gonna set it for another 3 minutes. Hey Google, set a timer for 3 minutes and we'll recheck it.
10 minutes, and we're starting now.
And again, depending on the size of your potato, you may or may not need more time. All right. So your vinaigrette, how much oil? So if you're making enough for about one serving of this, or like 4 servings of salad today, Evelyn, I would use maybe about a half a cup of oil. Start with about a half a cup of olive oil to maybe like a tablespoon or 2 of acid. It depends on how tart you like it. So I'm gonna add my olive oil now. I'm adding it in a drizzle as I'm stirring. So I'll just show you here. And I'm not even measuring, like I said, I'm just going to add enough oil to, you know, where I think it's about the amount that'll balance the acid. And you can also taste and adjust too. Remember, you can always test it out with like a lettuce leaf or a piece of cucumber. And if it's too tart, you can add a little bit more oil. Not tart enough, you can add more acid. So there we go. I'm gonna add like a healthy pinch of salt to my vinaigrette. And I'm gonna add some pepper, black pepper. I'm just gonna freshly grind this pepper in. Do it to taste.
Sorry, Lynna, can you repeat how much oil?
Yeah, I'm using about, it looks like about a half a cup of oil and about a tablespoon of acid. But you should taste and adjust as you want. You might need more acid. You might need more oil. Don't forget to salt it. I'm gonna taste it. I'm gonna take a slice of cucumber here. I'm gonna dip it in just to taste, and just taste it for, make sure it's not too tart. Yeah, this is about right. For a dressings, it's actually okay if it's a little bit more tart because it'll balance out with all your vegetables in your salad. Okay, so my vinaigrette's done. Go ahead and, you know, whisk and emulsify your dressing so that the acid incorporates into the olive oil. Add your salt, add some pepper, and incorporate it in with the garlic and the basil. I'll just hang out here with you a bit while we wait for potatoes to finish. Hey, Google, stop. All right, so I'm gonna check my potatoes again. Ah, now my potatoes they feel soft now. There's no give when I pierce it with my fork. I'm testing a big one. I'm testing a little one. So I'm gonna turn the heat off my boiled potatoes, just like that. And I'm gonna, once your potatoes are soft enough, not so soft that they fall apart when you put in a fork, make sure you grab your potatoes out before they're that soft. I'm gonna take my spider again, and I'm gonna take my ice bath that I used for my green beans, and I'm gonna place them inside the ice bath again. Same procedure as you did with the green beans. Mine doesn't have any more ice left, that's fine, as long as the water is cold. Okay, you could add more ice if you'd like, but I'm just going to, I have my potatoes in my bowl here in my ice bath. And we're just gonna let that cool for a couple minutes. And you can now drain your water out of your pot. Okay, so we're gonna reuse this pot. You don't have to wash it, but just drain the water out, just pour it out. And I'm gonna cook our eggs next with some fresh water. The water that we cook the potatoes in were kind of starchy, kind of thick. So rather than cook the eggs in it, I think it's nicer to just cook it in some clean water like this. So I'm gonna put this back on to boil. So I have a pot of clean water. You don't need to have washed the pot in between. I'm just putting on clean water and I'm gonna put it on to boil. Question?
Do we put sugar or honey in the dressing, or?
I don't usually add honey or sugar to this dressing. Did I include that as an ingredient?
No, I was just wondering. It just didn't. It tasted sweeter than with the dressings I make.
Oh yeah, if you would like, it's totally up to you. It's your call.
Okay.
It's your call, Gerhard. If you like your dressing a little sweeter, you can definitely add some honey.
Okay. Thanks, Lynna.
Yeah. Some people add mustard too, if you like the taste of mustard. My kids do not, so I'm not adding mustard. The mustard also helps it emulsify a little bit too. Okay. So we have our pot of water on to reboil for eggs. So as we let that reboil, we can start assembling our salad. So you can grab your salad bowl or your salad platter. I'm using a platter that's kind of flat like this, but you can use a big round one too if you'd like. Okay, so I'm using a wide flat platter, but you can use any kind of wide bowl. I'm gonna grab my lettuce that's already been washed. Okay, so just going to, these lettuce, I'm using a little gem lettuce because I happen to have some in the fridge. These are pretty big leaves of lettuce. They're not huge, but they're bigger than a mouthful. So I'm gonna use my hands and I'm just gonna tear them into bite-sized pieces like that. So I'm gonna take my lettuce, and you can do this with your butter lettuce too, or if you're using mixed greens, you can just go ahead and pour it into your platter. But I'm gonna take some time to use my hands to tear the lettuce into bite-sized pieces.
Lynna, how many people do you think a general head of Little Gems would feed? Is that like one per?
Oh, one head, I'd say one head of Little Gems will probably feed about a person and a half. It depends on how big your Little Gems were. Mine, I used, for the 5 of us, I think I used two big Little Gem heads.
Here are mine, Lynna. They're pretty small.
Oh yeah, so that, yeah, I'd say one person per head.
Okay.
Yeah. The other reason why I love being in the kitchen, especially in times of stress and anxiety, is I think it's really nice to just give each individual ingredient the attention it deserves, and to be able to feel and touch food or anything that comes from nature is really nice. And especially since a lot of us have been cooped up indoors, it's been hard to go outside until recently. But in the meantime, like cutting vegetables, right now what I'm doing is I'm tearing this lettuce with my hands. It just feels really good. It feels nice to just handle food, with clean hands, of course, but to just know that you're handling food and you're treating it well, and you're treating all your ingredients well. We've taken a lot of care with each of the ingredients we've prepared today, right? We're tearing our lettuce, or we prepared our peppers, we sauteed our peppers and our basil, and it's just really nice to work with your hands. So I find this fun. I find cooking very grounding for that reason. So I have my platter of lettuce, just putting out a layer of leaves, enough for tonight. If you don't use all your lettuce that you washed, if it seems like you've had enough, don't feel like you need to add it all to your platter. You can save it all for tomorrow. So I have my lettuce leaves prepared, and I have some lettuce left over. I think I'm going to save this for tomorrow because I think this is about enough lettuce for us tonight. Okay, so I have my lettuce leaves here prepared, and we're just going to set this platter off to the side. And I want to make room on my cutting board to start prepping my other ingredients, our other vegetables. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to tackle, and I know that some of you might have different vegetables than me, you should cook with whatever vegetables you want to add to your salad. I happen to be using peppers and radishes and cucumbers and spring onions and tomatoes today. You definitely do not have to use all those same vegetables. You can add other vegetables that you like. Carrots, celery if you like, you know, more bell peppers. So I'm going to start by cutting up some tomatoes. And I have some early grilled tomatoes that I'm going to use. This one has like a yucky bruise in it, so I'm just going to cut it off. But I'm going to just add my tomatoes straight onto my salad. And just a note about how you want to arrange your salad. You are the creator of the salad, so it is up to you whether you want to compose your salad or whether you want to have each individual ingredient kind of clustered in piles. So I don't know if you remember when we made Cobb salad, I liked to have like my chicken in one pile and my avocado in one pile, my eggs, my bacon. For this salad, you can use it however you want. You can, you know, scatter your tomatoes around. You can put it in a pile, totally up to you. So I'm just gonna, I think I'm gonna scatter my tomatoes this time. So I'm gonna cut up my tomatoes. And just bite-sized pieces. It can be rough, however you want. Okay.
Did the eggs go in before the water started moving?
Thank you for asking, Tegan. I am going to wait. The way I do my eggs is I wait till the water has come to a boil before I add my eggs. Okay.
Auntie Lena?
Yeah.
Should we boil our water right now?
Yes, your water should be boiling. Your water should be coming to a boil or get ready to boil. And my water is almost at a boil. Okay. I think I'm just going to use maybe these 3 tomatoes that I've cut up. All right, so at the beginnings of my salad, I'm gonna take my water is for my eggs are boiling. Is anyone else's water ready to add in eggs yet? Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and add my eggs to my water and set a timer for 8 minutes. So this we're gonna use kind of soft, like somewhat hard-boiled eggs. You can do it for less. Maybe I'll put it in for just 7 minutes, 7.5 minutes. It's up to you. If you like your eggs, you know, very hard-boiled, put it in for longer, 8 to 10 minutes. I'm gonna have kind of a medium boil. So I'm gonna put mine in for maybe 7.5 minutes. So once again, I'm gonna use a spider and I'm going to place my eggs on the spider. I'm using 5 eggs because I want to have 1 egg that I use as a tester. So I'm putting in 1 more egg than I would normally need. Okay. Hey Google, set a timer for 7 minutes and 30 seconds. So I have my eggs in the water. Okay, I'm just gonna let that boil. I have my timer on for 7.5 minutes. You can put your eggs on for longer or shorter. And now, while the potatoes have cooled in the hot water, I'm gonna go ahead and take the green beans out of the colander where they've been draining. I'm gonna cut my green beans in half. Okay, it's just so that they're a little bit easier for everyone to eat, especially if you have little mouths. I'm just gonna pile my green beans together. I'm gonna cut them in half. And I'm gonna scatter them over my salad. So the green beans that you had that were draining in your colander, go ahead and cut them in half. Again, don't have to use all your green beans. If you feel like your salad has enough green beans after the first stack of green beans that you cut, you don't have to add all of them. You can save the rest of the green beans for a salad for tomorrow or for another dish. Just use it in the next day or two because these have already been blanched. So I'm going to use these green beans here, and I've just scattered them over my salad. And then now I'm going to have this empty colander. I'm going to take this empty colander and I'm going to I'm going to drain my potatoes now in this empty colander I have that have been vacated by the green beans. So I'm going to pour my potatoes into the colander, and now I'm going to let this drain for a while. Okay, so I have my potatoes draining in the colander. I have green beans ready to scatter over my salad. Okay, our eggs should be in your pot of boiling water. Set a timer for about 7.5 to 10 minutes, depending on how well you like your eggs cooked. For egg salad, for example, you'd want it in for 10 to 11 minutes.
Should it be rapidly boiling or simmering?
Like a light boil.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. So I have my heat on my eggs at like a medium to medium low right now. I want to see bubbles. Amy, can you show my stove right now? Yeah, I want to see bubbles, but I don't need it to be like rapidly boiling. All right, so now while we have tomatoes and green beans on our salad, I'm going to dry my hands on a towel, and I'm going to take a pinch of kosher salt and just season the green beans and the tomatoes. Because we're going to be layering on some other vegetables, but I want to make sure that these tomatoes are properly seasoned. Tomatoes need seasoning for you to really taste the flavor. They need a little salt. So I'm just going to very selectively, just a light sprinkling of salt on every tomato I see. And if your green beans are in the way, that's fine too, because you want your green beans a little bit seasoned also. And we'll just let the tomatoes and the green beans hang out on your lettuce for a while we prep the rest of our ingredients. So now we're gonna prep I'm using cucumbers, radishes, and spring onions. So I'm gonna just cut my cucumbers. I'm gonna cut mine, you can cut it however you like. I'm gonna cut mine on the bias, which means I'm gonna cut it on a diagonal. I'm just gonna cut it into these thin slices, like little ovals. Okay, if you're using an English cucumber, you might need to cut your cucumbers in half, and then you can cut it into half moons. These are Persian cucumbers, and they're skinnier, so I'm just gonna cut them into ovals, like on the bias there, so diagonally. All right. Make sure to keep your fingers out of the way as you cut out of your blade. I'm gonna scatter this over my salad. Again, it feels so good to be able to touch and handle these vegetables. I'm going to do the same with another cucumber. I like my vegetables kind of in different shapes too. As you can notice, you have these cucumbers and ovals, and you have tomatoes and wedges. You have these long green beans. Okay. Some of you may or may not like radishes. I like radishes, so I decided to include it, and that's often, a lot of French salads include radishes. So you can cut your radishes however you like. I have these little breakfast radishes, and they can be cut. You can cut them in half and just scatter them over your salad, or you can again cut these on the diagonal too. I really love the crunch they offer, and they're like slightly spicy. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut each one into maybe 3 or 4 slices. Okay, and again, they add color too. or add crunch and color. Okay. Whatever vegetables you don't get through, if you have some left over, you can just put them all into a container tonight and you can make another salad tomorrow. All right. So done with my radishes. And the last vegetable I have is spring onion. But before I get to the spring onion, I want to prepare my ice bath for my eggs. So I have my ice bath water bowl. I'm using the same bowl just to minimize having to wash more bowls. I'm going to fill this with ice again. Again, filling up the bottom of the bowl with some ice. All right, I'm going to add some water to it. Make another ice bath. I'm filling it about halfway to 2/3 of the way full. My eggs are almost done. I'm about 20 seconds away. So I'll just wait for the timer to finish. It's fun to see all of you in these little windows. Hey, Google, stop. It's fun to see you all moving around in your kitchens, doing the same thing. It's so great. Okay, so I'm gonna turn my heat off. I have my ice water bath, I have my spider. I'm gonna take out my eggs and plunge them straight into the ice water bath to cool. All right, so here we go. Oh, I'm just gonna let the eggs hang out in here for a little bit while we prep the rest of our ingredients. I'm gonna save the eggs to cut last because eggs tend to make your cutting board a little bit messy. And I want to cut some other vegetables on it first. And we need time for it to cool off anyway. So I have some spring onions here. You can also use scallions or red onion if you'd like, if you don't mind a stronger onion flavor. You can also use shallots too, but I find shallots are pretty strongly flavored. And if you're gonna eat them raw, I think in a salad like this, it might be pretty strong. So I'm just gonna use these spring onions, which have a milder flavor than a regular onion. And I'm gonna cut these again also on the bias. I'm cutting them on the diagonal into very thin oval shapes. If you want your onions to be even smaller, you can kind of cut them in half lengthwise. And you can also just cut these into little pieces and scatter them over your salad. Okay, I know I've talked about this a lot today, but again, I just find it so comforting to go back to the kitchen in times of stress. And, you know, even something as simple as cutting vegetables can feel really soothing. So I have a stack of spring onions here. I'm gonna sprinkle these all over my salad. I'm not tossing anything yet because we still have more stuff to add. Okay, I'll add another, maybe that's enough spring onion. I'm using both the white and the green part because I just don't like to waste any part of the onion. I like the way onions taste. If you're not a fan of onions, you can also just put them aside in a separate bowl and you can sprinkle them on. People can sprinkle them on at the table. Okay, so the next thing we have is our potatoes. Our potatoes have cooled and they should be draining in your colander. So you can also now cut your potatoes. You can cut them into bite-sized pieces. So I have these fingerlings, but you can also, if you have baby new potatoes, you can cut them into quarters or halves. So I'm just gonna cut these also on the diagonal just to make it fun. I think I'm going to cut this one into thirds. So some of my longer fingerlings, I'm going to cut them into thirds. And again, I'll just put them on my salad, depending on the size of your potatoes. It's like I have a little one here. I'm just gonna, you can either leave it whole or just cut it in half. So just use your best judgment. The inside should be kind of creamy. And the reason I specified baby potatoes or new potatoes, small potatoes, is that the skin tends to be thinner and more tender, so you don't have to peel them. I generally try to eat the peel of most of the vegetables that we cook. I don't know if you've noticed, but when we roasted sweet potatoes, when we roasted potatoes in the past, I usually leave the skin on because that's really where all of the most of the nutrients are, like as close to the skin as possible. So if you're peeling potatoes, you're often losing an opportunity to get more vitamins and nutrients out of your vegetables. Okay, so I have my potatoes scattered. Any questions? Again, if you have more potatoes than you think you need for tonight, just put them away with your other vegetables and you can save it for a salad tomorrow. All right. And let's see, what else do we have? We have our eggs, getting close to the hour. I'm gonna peel our eggs. Huh? We'll do the fish last. So I'm gonna take my eggs that have been cooling in the ice bath. I'm gonna crack them, and I'm gonna peel them straight into my compost bowl. So I'm just going to peel the eggs. I'm gonna rinse each one with water after I peel it, just to make sure I get all the tiny eggshell shards off the egg. It's just added extra insurance to make sure you don't accidentally crunch into an eggshell. And I'm just gonna lay it on my cutting board. I mentioned you can also cook an extra egg and cut it in half and test it out if it's the right amount of doneness. I'm gonna peel our eggs. Okay. And I'm gonna rinse each egg after I peel it, just to make sure all the eggshell shards have been rinsed off. As we move into the fall, I'm already thinking about all the things that we can cook together. We'll probably need to think of some creative ways to braise certain dishes together, because braising takes a long time. There's usually a step where you need to sear and caramelize meat, but we'll work on it. We might do some videos again, some asynchronous videos, and that way we can braise together. We'll also be doing some Asian dishes, some Chinese dishes. And yeah, and like Brenna said, we'll hopefully make some holiday dishes, some fall holiday dishes too. Okay, so I have 4 eggs here peeled. I'll leave that last egg to hang out for tomorrow. And for these eggs, rather than slicing them, I think it's nicer if they're either cut in half or cut into quarters. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut mine in half, I think, for now. And you can see here the egg yolk is nice and creamy. It's set, but it's also creamy, not super hard. Okay, so I'll just scatter these around my salad. You can cut them into quarters or halves, however you'd like. I'm gonna put mine on maybe just a third of the salad because Dee Dee's allergic to eggs, so egg whites. So I don't want it to touch all the vegetables. So I'll just put it on half of my salad. Okay. And so we have our salad mostly assembled. The last thing I'm going to add is our, oh, two more things, our peppers. So for those of you who either saute peppers or are using jarred peppers, you can go ahead and drape your peppers over your salad. If you'd like, you can also cut them. I'm just going to leave these, well, I think I'll maybe just cut some of these in half. These Jimmy Nardellos. Just do a rough cut. Just going to cut these and scatter them over. It's getting to be a pretty big salad. Something for everyone, I think. Okay. And last thing we're going to add is our protein. So whatever protein you're using, you might be using tuna, preferably oil-packed tuna, or anchovies. I'm going to be using some anchovies here. So I have some oil-packed anchovies, and they just sit in my fridge, and I make Caesar salad with them too. If you have leftover anchovies from today, in case you bought them, and you have a new jar, you can cut these up and make it into a Caesar salad. But I'm going to take a couple fillets of anchovy and just drape them over the salad. And then same with your tuna. You can open up your can of tuna and take a fork, and you can scoop out some of the tuna and add the chunks onto your salad also. If you have anyone in your family who is not a fan of fish, you can just put it on part of the salad and, warn them that this is the part that has tuna. And then you can leave another part that has tuna. Okay. You put your tuna chunks, add it to your salad. So it's my completed salad. I'm just going to season it now. Of course, never forget to season. I'm going to take some salt and make sure every piece of egg has a little bit of salt on it. Every potato has some salt scattered over it. Not a ton, because your dressing has a little bit of salt in it too. And if you're using anchovies, your anchovies will be salty also. But I want to make sure the potatoes, the eggs, the cucumbers, if you added them, that they all have a little bit of seasoning on it. And then for your dressing, you can either dress it all at once, or you can serve it on the side and let your dinner guests, let your family members serve themselves the amount of dressing they want. Okay. How's it going? Anybody have questions? This is also a good time to start cutting your bread if you're using bread. Hey, Jeff, I see you. Hi, good to see you. So if you have a bread, a baguette, you can go ahead and get that ready too. And your cheese and olives. Olives, I know can be a little bit polarizing. Some people love olives, some people hate them. So I'm gonna just leave the olives, I think I'm gonna leave them on the side, but you can add them to your salad if you'd like. I'm only leaving them on the side because, oh, these olives don't have pips, so maybe I think I will add my olives here. I'm just gonna throw some olives onto my salad. And these will add saltiness too. All right. And your cheese platter, if you have cheese. And get your bread ready also. Hey, Avery, I see you're using an egg slicer. I'm going to warn you that having your eggs sliced really thinly can cause the egg yolk to kind of coat your entire salad. If you don't want that to happen, then I wouldn't use an egg slicer. I would just cut them with a knife. So it's totally up to you. I'm just going to let you know that sometimes some people don't like little pieces of egg hanging out all over their salad. It can, because it'll fall apart because they're so thin. But if you don't mind that, go ahead and use the egg slicer. I just happen to see you using it. But if you do mind it, then just cut your eggs into quarters or slices. I know I should just mind my own business, but I just wanted to warn you. Do as you will. Who else can I spy on? Let's see.
You can't spy on me because, but how many anchovies did you use?
I used like five or six.
Oh my God, this is so decadent. It's so awesome.
Well, and it's also really light too. It's in many ways, it's quite refreshing.
Right.
I think last week we had.
Last week was just over the top, amazing decadent. This is like a plethora of summer flavors. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, yes, something light. Chris, that's beautiful, Chris. That's a gorgeous salad. Yay! Yeah, I felt like we needed something cleansing after the week we've had. My God.
No, at the time, but now, yes.
Yeah. We're gonna have a better, every week it's gotta get better. Hi, Maggie. Was that you, Maggie? Hello. Or is that Kira? Hi, good to see you. I love seeing your family together, cooking. But Griffin, it seems like you're doing most of it, huh? Yeah. We have about 44 days left until the election, people. We have to keep each other strong and energized. Food can be a source of energy, good energy, positive energy. And we're gonna use food can be medicine too. So we're gonna use food in as positive a way as possible to comfort ourselves, but also to nourish ourselves, to energize ourselves, to keep us strong.
Lynna?
Yes, David?
We just really appreciated the way that you were connecting the food and the choice of food to everything that's going on in the world and the way we need to nourish ourselves. So thank you for not only being amazing in the cooking instruction, but also just in the community part of it. It's really lovely.
Thank you.
Thank God.
Thank you. Thank God for all of us being together in this time. You guys are what keep me going. I look forward to Sundays, every Sunday with all of you. Every time you come, it makes me so, so happy. You are what keep me going.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy your dinner. Hi, Asher. Let's go for a bike ride this week, okay?